All right, wake up, everyone. We have more news on the budget proposal, this time from the Senate side. This is from the AP. Trump gives GOP senators his support as they charge ahead on tax and spending cuts. Republican senators unveiled a budget proposal Wednesday that's central to President Donald Trump's domestic agenda of tax breaks, spending cuts, and border security. But they're delaying some of the most difficult decisions, including how to pay for the multi-trillion-dollar package. Yeah, how are you going to pay for it? Trump hosted Senate Republicans at the White House as they charged ahead to pass the framework by week's end, facing a wall of Democratic opposition. Trump publicly and privately assured GOP senators he would back the plan, including its massive cuts to government programs and services. It also boosts the national debt limit by $5 trillion. $5 trillion. Why? I thought you guys are like supposed to pay down the debt. I thought we were supposed to have like a surplus. So why are we increasing the debt limit by $5 trillion? It's almost like you don't actually care about the debt or deficit. You just care about giving tax cuts that primarily benefit the rich, which costs a lot of money. And in turn, you have to not only raise the nation's debt limit by $5 trillion, you also have to make crucial cuts to very important social programs. Let's keep reading. The Senate plan has my complete and total support, Trump said at a White House event later that day announcing his new tariffs. The president also lobbed a warning to the senators. I won't like them so much if they don't get this bill done. The Senate GOP's budget framework would be the companion to the House Republicans' $4.5 trillion tax cuts package that also calls for cutting as much as $2 trillion from healthcare and other programs. If the Senate can approve its blueprint, it would edge Trump's allies on Capitol Hill closer to a compromise, setting the stage for a final product in the coming weeks. So yeah, and don't let them lie to you, okay? They're gonna say, oh, you can look up the whole bill. There ain't no mention about healthcare, Medicaid cuts, bro. Okay, it's because they use clever wording. They talk about cutting departments that own these programs instead of mentioning these programs directly. AOC put this really well at a rally. I forget what her exact phrasing was, but it was something along the lines of, like, she asked a random, person in the audience, what's 10 minus 7? And they said 3. And she said, well, according to Republicans, that's wrong. And that's pretty much the idea of this tax cut package. Like, you can't get what your answer is without cutting Medicare and Medicaid. Like, it's just not possible. You can hide behind your clever wording all you want, but at the end of the day, you're going to cut it, and you know you're going to cut it. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said it's now time for the Senate to move forward. While big differences remain, Republicans face increasing political pressure to deliver on what is expected to be Trump's signature domestic policy package, extending the tax cuts, which were initially approved in 2017 during his first term at the White House. Those tax breaks expire at the end of the year, and Trump wants to expand them to include new no taxes on tipped wages, overtime pay, and other earnings, as he promised during the 2024 campaign. And unless something's different in this bill, there's been no mention of that. Like, there's been no mention of no taxes on tips or overtime in their actual legislation. Here's a little tracker tracking Trump's promises. I don't know, like, just looking at this, like, I just don't know who in their right mind, aside from 50% of the country, just looks at these promises and thinks they're a good thing. So a little side here. Conduct the largest deportation program in U.S. history. What a great promise. Bar a flood of refugees from Gaza. Under no circumstances should we bring thousands of refugees from Hamas-controlled terrorist epicenters like Gaza to America. Instead, he wants to occupy it, kick them all out, and send them to other countries and make the other countries have to deal with them. Revoke student visas of pro-Hamas protesters. When they say pro-Hamas, they just mean pro-Palestinian. Immediately begin ideological screening for all immigrants. End the constitutional right to birth, citizenship, and then you have your taxes. Cut the corporate tax rate to 15% from 21%. Make expiring tax cuts permanent. We will have no tax on tips, eliminate taxes on Social Security, eliminate taxes on overtime pay. I will make interest on car loans fully tax deductible. So I doubt he actually does like the 3 okay things. Energy. Abolish Biden era auto emissions rule. So, screw the climate. Declare a national emergency to spur more drilling in pipelines, refineries, power plants, and reactors. A massive increase in domestic energy supply. Drill, baby, drill. Because it's not like we weren't already producing records of, of oil, like a record amount of oil, and like terminate state emissions waivers like California that seek to limit the sale of gas-powered cars, education, cut federal money to schools that push critical race theory, transgender. This is just all so dumb. Like, where's my free healthcare? Where is like a higher minimum wage? Where's a grand infrastructure plan? Our infrastructure gets a C- rating. Like, where is anything that can actually tangibly, materially benefit the American people? No, it's not there. This is all just gimmick bullshit. Like, all of it. All of it. Democrats are preparing to oppose the GOP tax plans as giveaways to the wealthy, coming as billionaire Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is taking a chainsaw to the federal government. They warn Republicans plan to cut government programs and services that millions of Americans depend on nationwide. And a quick aside to anyone who's like, well, you see, when you cut corporate taxes, when you cut taxes on the wealthy, it leads to like higher wages and trickle down economics, bro. Well, that's not really the case. Let's read this. I just asked ChatGPT very simply, do tax cuts lead to higher wages? Let's see what they said. The relationship between tax cuts and wages is complex, and whether tax cuts lead to higher wages depends on how the tax cuts are structured, who receives them, in the broader economic context. Here's the breakdown. So, arguments that tax cuts can lead to higher wages. Corporate tax cuts, supply side theory. The idea is that if companies pay less in taxes, they'll invest in more equipment training or extension. That can boost productivity, and higher productivity tends to lead to higher wages over time. That's not even true, because you can go look up the charts and studies yourself, but like wages are like that, and productivity is like that. Like, it just goes like straight up. Our productivity has increased so much, especially in comparison to our wages. It's laughable. Personal income tax cuts, more take-home pay. Workers get more of their paycheck, effectively increasing disposable income. While this doesn't raise gross wages, it improves the purchasing power. We already talked about it. The actual tax cuts on people making like below several $100,000, it's minimal. It's barely noticeable, especially for what we have to pay in return. Just the massive programs and agencies that have been cut. Medicare cuts, Social Security cuts. We don't have a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau anymore. No NLRB. Our National Weather Service had to like cut balloon launches in half. So now weather's just it's gonna be more unpredictable. Like, so dumb. Increased business investment, more capital investment can create demand for labor, potentially raising wages if the labor market tightens. Argument that tax cuts don't necessarily lead to higher wages. Profits versus wages. Companies may use tax savings for stock buybacks, dividends, or executive compensation rather than workers' wages. Studies after the 2017 U.S. tax reform, which is what we want to extend now, found only modest wage increases, while most benefits going to shareholders. Surprise, surprise. Weak bargaining power. Even if companies save money, wages might not rise if workers lack bargaining power or if labor supply is high, which they do lack bargaining power, because we just talked about the NLRB is essentially no more, and Trump ended collective bargaining for federal workers. So, yeah. Trickle-down economics has mixed results. Historically, trickle-down effects of tax cuts for corporations or the wealthy haven't consistently led to widespread wage growth. What does the evidence say? Post-2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Corporate tax cuts dropped from 35 to 21%. Wage growth was modest, while stock buybacks hit record highs. The Congressional Research Service found little evidence of a surge in wages or investment. Long-term trends. U.S. wage growth has lagged productivity growth for decades, despite several rounds of tax cuts. Bottom line, in theory, tax cuts can boost wages, especially if they lead to investment and productivity gains. In practice, the effect is often small or delayed, and benefits may go more to shareholders than workers unless policies are specifically designed to encourage wage growth. So yeah, don't come at me with this trickle-down economics bullshit. Like, it's just not a thing, okay? Where did we leave off? Democrats are preparing to oppose the GOP's tax plans as giveaways to the wealthy as coming as... Did I already read that? Yeah, I already read that. No amount of gaslighting from Republicans about the true cost of their tax plans, said Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon, the top Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee who pegged the price tag at upward of $5 trillion. Wyden said that the Republicans want to pay for the package with massive cuts to health care and other programs in terms of American lives ruined and lost. The human toll of what Republicans are trying to accomplish will be horrific. The Senate bill proposes keeping nearly $4 trillion in existing tax cuts and adding $1.5 trillion in new ones. It bolsters spending for defense, homeland security, the judiciary, and the Coast Guard to more than $500 billion, though Graham had signaled it would likely end up closer to $345 billion. Hundreds of billions of increases to defense spending, while hundreds of billions of cuts to non-defense spending, programs that are actually important to the American people. Yeah, they don't care about the deficit. They don't care about you. Like, bro, I don't know how else to put it to you. They don't care about you. Think for yourself. Stop listening to Fox News, Elon Musk, or Donald Trump, or whatever idiot is trying to tell you this is all good for you. Okay, it is not. It is not. Historical evidence shows it's not, and studies show it's not. You're just objecting to reality. That's all I can tell you. As for the size of the spending cuts, it's still a work in progress. The Senate sets a much lower floor of $1 billion in reductions each for committees handling healthcare, food stamps, and other programs. However, that can be raised if needed to compromise with the White House's estimated $2 trillion in cuts. $2 trillion in cuts, and you know they're not cutting the military because they want to give hundreds of billions more to it. If that doesn't just tell you what you need to know about what they actually care about, then I don't know what to tell you. During the morning meeting at the White House, the GOP senators pressed Trump for backing as they vowed to push ahead with tax breaks that would surely be popular, but also spending cuts that could prove politically difficult. We asked him for his commitment, which I think was there anyways, to defend our efforts to reduce spending, said John Kennedy, and to do that publicly and vociferously. He is fully on board with the Senate's proposal and process to cut spending, and the Senate Budget Committee Chair, Senator Lindsey Graham, RSC, one main sticking point between the House and the Senate GOP plans has been over whether the existing tax cuts, which are estimated to cost federal government as much as $4.5 trillion over the next decade, need to be paid for by spending reductions elsewhere. Adding Trump's new tax breaks to the package would balloon the price tag. To offset the cost, House Republicans are demanding big cuts to program services to prevent the nation's $36 trillion debt load from skyrocketing. But GOP senators have a different approach. They take the view that because the tax cuts are already current policy, that would not be new and add to future deficits. The legislation says the budget chair has the authority to use realistic assumptions on the current policy baseline moving forward, meaning only Trump's other proposed tax breaks would come with a new cost. That's a major freaking cope right there. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York and top Democrats call the Senate GOP's approach a gimmick at best, if not outright a lie. It is an obscene fraud and the American people won't stand for it, said Schumer, Wyden, and Senator Jeff Merkley of the Budget Committee in a letter to GOP leadership. Typically, the current policy baseline proposal would need to pass the muster of the Senate nonpartisan parliamentarian to make sure it abides by the strict rules of the budget process. Senators from both parties have been arguing in closed-door sessions with the parliamentarian staff for and against the idea, but Republicans are pressing ahead for now, regardless of the outcome. Democratic Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey said of the emerging GOP plans during a landmark overnight speech what they're investing in is bigger tax cuts for the wealthiest. Absolutely true. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has urged Senate Republicans to get it done. Treasury needs Congress to raise the national limits this summer to prevent a catastrophic federal default. Trump has pushed Congress to resolve the debt ceiling issue now so Democrats cannot use it as a leverage point making demands on their own priorities. The House provided a $4 trillion increase in its proposal, but senators upped it to $5 trillion to avoid having to face the issue again before the 2026 midterm elections. Senators want to move quickly this week to pass a framework, which will entail a lengthy all-night vote that could drag into the weekend. Then they will sort out the details later as the House and Senate Republicans facing Democratic opposition build the actual package for consideration in the weeks, if not months ahead. There you have it. Yeah, I don't know how else to show you what their priorities are. Like, it ain't you, dog. It ain't. And for all of you people who are on principle against government spending and on principle want to cut the government, you shouldn't be on board with this either, because they're allocating still hundreds of billions of dollars in increases to defense spending. So, yeah, like, I don't know what to tell you. Don't know what to tell you. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below, and if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.